Hello, this is Gary with Gabbin with Gary. Tell us what's on your mind. We want to know. Hope everyone's doing well. Again, my name is Gary, the 16th, and here we are going live. My buddy Rick should be here momentarily, and we're going to be just in the meantime, I'd like to talk about a few things I've been seeing just for the heck of it. Um, I've been seeing a lot. Mm. Seems like every news link we have going off of Yahoo is nothing but Ukraine and Russia, and I get that. We and then I hear people are going soft. We can't go soft on helping Ukraine. Excuse me. If we go soft on helping Ukraine, they're going to roll into Poland, and Moldova is just barely holding on themselves. I imagine. Let's see who's here. Hmm. Well, I'm really glad that you made it. Again, Putin's a jerk. Um, Listen, I heard about this senator the other day. A senator or a rep in Colorado. He went to go to a debate, I believe, and he's a wheelchair-bound rep, and they had zero ramps to get onto the stage. Humiliatingly, he had to crawl on the stage to get to his podium, I believe. Uh, we're losing a lot here. We're losing civility. We really need to try to work on grace and helping other people again and helping your neighbor. Seems like we lost part of that as well. I would like to say that we need we need we need to be nice to everybody again. Seems like we don't do that anymore or any less. I also feel that the mass shootings that we have all the time. I'm a Second Amendment guy. For one thing, I want you to know, I believe in the Second Amendment. I believe in having weapons. I don't believe in having mass shootings across America. Every day it seems like. Every day you go to look, there's another mass shooting. Oh, we need. I don't know what we need to do to fix that. I'm not here to go over that. I just think it's a travesty that we're going through this all the time. It's pretty crazy. I also have problems again with everybody going soft for Ukraine. But besides that, before we get into that, I would like to say that what the hell is going on with our police forces across America? It seems like they have some big ego trips going on. Um, a massive amount of that seems like arrested uh, across the United States. I don't know how all of a sudden that we have of these society issues. We need to be able to correct those and to be able as a civilization and help the people we go. Um, it's it's always pretty interesting. What do you say? Why don't you guys here? We can move into that even. Um, yeah, it just seems to be one another. What we can talk about like someone like George Santos, who's a total retard, and Lion. We'll just call him Lion Santos for now. He is a lie. It's with that too, everything. And then how does he get to stay when he made it there on a lie? How does that happen? We're able to do that. It's pretty crazy. And and that go. It's just like that was the case. Um, I'm a vet. I see a lot of veterans problems, like the VA. The VA in Cheyenne doesn't really have much of a um, it. That's another problem that we have going on. You call up the patient's advocate out in Cheyenne, and you get them protecting the VA instead of at least. I'm sure I can't be the only one that's affected. We would have to see, you know. Uh, I've been interviewing Senator and our local uh, Laramie police chief, and I just got done with, and I'll be posting that too. I thought it was very interesting. Um, Senators here, Brasso and Lumen, and I'm also going to be having a professor of psychology on, I believe, next, so that we can address some of the I feel traumas that are happening across the United States. We'll have to see it. It seems like uh, it just keeps on coming. Dillon, you're right. Dillon says homelessness for vets remains unprioritized, most severe housing, and he's correct. We on that ability to do that. Bring him in. Let's see. Is bring him in as a guest. Say, sent him an invite. We'll see if he comes on in here. I'm sure he will. He's an awesome guy. Look at that. I already lost somebody because I'm an idiot, but that's okay. We're all learning. But we do have a lack of veterans. And it would be really nice if we could see more help. Um, it's not just, it also has to be accompanied by um, a healthy psychiatrist or psychologist to and everybody, they're probably on PTSD, and all that needs to be addressed. But uh, it's living, um, not even in any kind of house is a definite problem here in Wyoming. Um, I can tell you that I put in for housing, and it's they want you to go through a lot of hurdles, even though those hurdles are possible. Um, there is housing in Cheyenne, from what I understand, but housing here, uh, and that's not just a Laramie or Cheyenne or Wyoming problem. This is a problem. How do we address that? We address that by making a small mini for vets. Um, shouldn't have to pay. It should be a place where they can get better and get on their feet. Need sometimes to help up, and there's nothing wrong with the help up. And join our join our chat. I sent you an email. Use these chats. Dillon says there needs to be an open and honest acknowledgement. Cost benefit analysis makes it better to house everyone than have millions of homeless, exasperating and benefiting only wealthy real estate developers and the in their pockets and and their pockets. Um, that is another issue that we have. I believe that the politics in DC are lobbying, and so they don't really help their constituents as much as they help the people who are lining their until that stops. I think it's going to be hard to pass a lot of legislation either way. But I'm sure there's something that we could do about, like Dillon said, to get housing and then to go through its qualification, except to show that they're at home with that. That's one of the most important things. Um, I'm sorry, things going through my mind that I'd like to you know let me see. If I need to do anything to let him in because I don't see anything. Oh, there we go. Sorry, this is a on the go. It seems to be. Hmm. Trying to figure out how to say okay. why this is loading up so I can how to have them join. It doesn't look I'll be. And we're not. We should just be on. That's pretty. Oh, hell yeah, you're there.
Hey, I figured it out. I had to try. One was in the text, so I tried the other one and it worked.
Yeah, yeah. The email was the text one was for next week.
Oh, cool. Okay. All right. Well, yeah, I'm glad you were talking about some cool stuff there. I was starting to think, and then you were saying, "Oh, someone should join," and I was like, "Oh, I guess I could join."
You know, I do better with somebody else. It's really hard to talk to the microphone, and that's about it. You know, and you're
Yeah.
a very talented person, especially saying about the lack of need just to have people in homes is really very important.
Yeah, because if you think about it, and I can speak from experience, I've been homeless, and I was fully employed the whole time I was homeless, so I wasn't just sitting around. I had I became homeless, and I maintained that job through homelessness and got out of it. But that's lucky for me. Not every homeless person has that opportunity, and spending your money on around getting documents to and from different places and trying to go wait in line at social security welfare when you're homeless and you need to be working, that's the last thing you want, standing in a line in a government office.
Right.
So you need to make the process easy. If this is the group of people who needs the most help, why are you going to make it just as hard as everyone else going to get their license or going to court? Like, you need to make some processes a little easier. If someone has no transportation, every dollar they spend is a decision between food and getting to work, because they're going to choose getting to work. And so make it easier.
You know that goes to the thing or whatever it may be. You know, the in most places is incredibly long. On the one in California, and for like a couple of only called me when I was moved out of California.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. A lot of these issues really do connect with each other. So when you hear about, like, how can we help, domestic violence, so beat by their husbands and boyfriends as much, and how do we keep people out of situations where they get a housing? If you have women and vulnerable people in their own housing, so they don't have to go shack up with some guy so they have a roof over their head, or they don't have to, like, maintain a full-time job and not get to raise the kids as much. If you give people the resources to water a plant, it'll grow. But if you say, hey, pull yourself up by your bootstraps every time, you're going to have a bunch of people not making it, just like now. So if you actually give people who are, lower income, they can focus on getting a higher income, not on, oh, like, I just got beat by my boyfriend. And then on the flip side, if anyone has ever been to jail, there's a lot of dudes in jail for DV. So if you take that out of the equation, not only is the stress on the police force not as high, which I want to come back, but then you avoid all these problems. Problems in society have these structural, these factors, that it's not an accident. It's not an individual case scenario. We've heard the story a million times. So so why don't we actually start treating the root causes and not the symptoms? And if we're not sure how to treat the root cause, let's try and get a little deeper than the surface, where we're just saying, hey, hire more police, try and keep crime down, throw more people in jail. Well, let's take out the factors that get people there, and let's get people more resources, job training, so that, if people are trying to go from lower income to higher income, they can do it. So housing is like a big issue that really helps a lot of other social problems. And if you think about it, turtle needs their shell. Everyone needs a house to go home to, or some kind of home after their work. You want a labor force in this country, you got to have housing.
You know, they uh, Utah. So Utah with the homeless years ago, that instead of dealing with them, you know, with throwing money at them, and they decided to give them housing, and the housing I believe cost, I want 10,000 a year, opposed to like thousand that they were putting out to help these people because they gave them housing, their mental health improved immensely,
Mhm.
and then of course they were able to get jobs, and so you have a whole thing working when you have a, no, it's not just your home, it's definitely a security, and it shouldn't be a right.
Absolutely. And for people who are saying, hey, I don't think housing should be an entitlement. I don't even believe in entitlement. I want to see people just start their own businesses. I saw my mom start her own business from a bedroom and turn it into an office space, and then, well, not actually buying or renting out an office, and then buying an office building and having tenants. So if you give someone just that first starting block, they will have the ability to gather resources. If they have to meet clients at their home, they at least have some place before they can transition to a business space. And so I think at it as an investment, and I always emphasize the cost benefit analysis. What's the trade-off? What are we getting for doing it, and what are we not getting if we don't do it? So if you don't give people housing, what happens? Is that, just like you said, the 30,000 to help them versus 10,000 for the housing? Just give them the housing. Stop counting the dollars like it's sins against Christ or something. It's not another
No,
nail.
and
Okay,
everything
it's just.
dropped because of this situation, and they still had to go see some mental health, but the even was far less that they needed than they were when they were home.
Yeah, because when you're homeless, I mean, not every single day, but over time, it's re-trauma, because you have just countless experiences of trying to hide the fact that you're homeless, if that's possible for you. And if it's not, then you're just getting looked at by people very differently. And it's very scary the way that people will look at you when they think you're homeless versus they'll look at you when they don't. It's as if you it's almost like you just got witnessed committing a crime right outside the place you walked into. And the way you would imagine someone, like a whole group of people into a store, and everyone's just like, oh, there's the homeless person, and you're like, yeah, that didn't used to happen to me. like
Well,
like but you got
though
a
the
hood
other side
on
of
under a
that is
coat.
when
And
there's people who are homeless, that's when you really see the
Mhm.
mental health breakdown. And
Yeah.
but that's easily fixed as long as to live. They seem to, the body bounces fast.
Yeah. Yeah, people are resilient, but they need a hand sometimes, and we got to reevaluate, like, what's the point of being in a society, right? Is a society a trade-off of some stuff for others? I mean, cuz you could leave if you don't want to be in it. Like, people can go live in the woods and stuff. So if we do want to agree to work as a group to fix problems, have this attitude of, oh, I'm not giving you anything. That's the group.
Even here,
You
there's a
know.
lot job openings I see everywhere being filled.
Well, I see the wages as ridiculous. I always comment on, especially all the delivery job postings I see, where a boss says, bring your own vehicle and it pays 13 an hour. I drove Uber. You have to make at least $20 an hour driving. Otherwise, you might as well make minimum wage doing anything else because it's simply not worth it. And that company, that boss is asking you to go drain your vehicle's value for them. These jobs, they just offer such low wages, and I'm not are either driving to like Fort Collins and Denver and Cheyenne for work. They're leaving if they can, because there's a big disparity. Laramie is becoming, are you familiar with the term gentrification?
Oh yeah, but it's really moving. It's really moving
So
to
that's happening, but from
retirement,
richer white
and
people
that's what
doing it to poorer white
that
people.
it's just it's becoming a retirement city. So the we're not getting we don't have a lot of accessible housing that's fairly priced,
Hmm.
and then
Yeah, that's what I was talking about
business.
with that. Yeah.
You can't bring in more business if business, excuse me, especially big business, if you have no place to people economically. It can't. I mean, out here I saw a couple bedrooms just a couple of days ago for $1,400, and I'm like, this is Laramie. And the same
Yeah.
thing in Montana. The locals get pushed. We need to do something to fix that. But when they get pushed out,
They're going to Casper because I've been renting for years here now, and I've seen the prices go crazy high, and luckily my family can afford to stay here. I mean, we're looking at Cheyenne for this next year, but really it
oh,
would be nice if there was, but I can't. But Casper is way more affordable. And I can see like the amount of space you get for, even though it's a long move, right? Who wants to go all the way up there? But then you see how much space you get for the price, and you say, okay, the wages here are the same as the wages in Casper. So why would I pay a higher price in Laramie for no added benefit? And then it's just about if you, and I do, but most people who are moving, I'm sure they're moving too, because that's what happens is people who are like working class, they're always bouncing around from like different affordable places to others. I know me and my poor friends used to go from like Colorado Springs, and then we were trying to find like the next livable place, and then that was Fountain, and then that was Pueblo, and it's moving further and further away from the Denver metropolitan area. And it's the
well,
same thing on the north end up here
this is
too.
my eighth or ninth state, so I get it. I started on the outsides and had to move my way
And think
just
about how
because that's what.
fortunate we are that we even had the money to leave, because moving is expensive and it's hard to find a place sometimes. And I feel like I've barely found a place several times in my life, just in time. Like this place, we didn't have any time left to find a place, and they called us. We were like, thank God, because where were we? We were, the last place, they were gonna sell it. So we didn't like get kicked out or move. We actually just had to leave because they were selling the house. The market was
Right,
so high.
right.
So of course they were going to sell the house.
Yeah, I had a place that was taken of that kind of stuff. You didn't get really kicked out, but you got the, I forget what they call that,
Yeah,
but
they're not renewing it.
right,
Yeah.
that's it, and they're just, in my
Yeah.
case, they were getting the first never late, and
Hmm.
they leave. Oh, reclaim. They reclaimed it, and they put
Yeah.
a couple of family members in there instead, and 2 months. The husband shot everybody in there. Yeah. So they kicked me out to get a murderer in there, which is
And then they
obviously
killed
they didn't know.
themselves. Wow.
And he killed the wife and their kid.
Yeah. He killed them. Oh, geez. Oh my God.
Yeah, crazy. And
Wow.
the place that I the exact built the exact home. It's kind of crazy when you think of it.
That's really sad to think about, like the rooms we have all these happy memories in, and you're just like watching like a murder show.
Hey,
Yeah.
I don't mean to switch the subject, but um, homelessness, it drives a lot of different things. Not
Yeah.
just being homeless and depression. It drives, well, it would be larceny, and then of course you have burglaries, and the difference is one you're home and one you're not, and so you get a lot of that. But I imagine between here, burglaries in a home, or a robbery, should I say? Robbery is when someone's there. That almost everybody has a weapon in their home. So between here and Montana, no one's really trying to bust down the door. It's not like New York, or somewhere in San Francisco.
Yeah, the and that's one thing I definitely like about the availability of guns is that it changes the way crime happens. But there's definitely these weird facts, like you were saying, with homelessness, and also with like how urban the environment is, people are, because Cheyenne has similar laws as us, but I hear it's more violent over there. um so I'll look that
Cheyenne.
up later to be sure. Yeah,
Okay.
I'll double check that. But
It is now.
yeah.
Hey, the crimes.
Yeah, and homelessness, yeah, absolutely plays into a lot of these things, because I don't know if you've heard this phrase, poverty is the worst kind of violence, and it's not violence to the people in poverty. It's the violence that is created by poverty existing, because of course people
Oh,
don't
it
just
affects
commit
the whole
crimes to be
society.
jerks. Yeah, there's like the whole survival aspect, that like if they're starving, they're going to steal a lot of stuff on a regular basis to survive. So you really need to fix that. Like we need to make food a lot more. I know we have resources going. If it seems like we could use some more.
It's
It seems like
never
the cost of stuff is going up.
the cost of skyrocketing. If God forbid you're running a food bank, it's really tough to feed the numbers that they were feeding. They don't actually get it for free either.
Yeah,
Sometimes they have to pay as well.
yeah, and that's the whole. Not that I don't love food banks, but it's really like a band. It's not treating the root cause; it's treating the symptom, and so then you kind of, it gets a
How do
little
we
more
fix the root cause?
complicated. So we look at what historically caused this, right? How do we have this whole huge nation, and we look out in Wyoming and there's tons of open land. So this huge nation, all these people in it, and they're hungry. There's all these people who not working. There's all this food that needs to be grown that's not being grown. All these people just being hungry as a result. So when did people, and how, since people were dispossessed of land and resources to farm, and knowledge, and like capital for equipment to farm, how do we get that back going, so that we don't have this over dependence on shipping food to countries, so that we can feed our own country? And this isn't just the vets, but it includes the vets too, because they're disproportionately homeless, and all the populations who are homeless are disproportionately represented among armed services: Black, Indigenous, Latino, poor. So all these poor working class white people, so all these groups, if we were able to give them access to land, they would actually be self-sufficient. They wouldn't be dependent. So we stop using dependency as a solution. Even though we support people in the short term, we don't want that to be the only long-term thing.
You saw a direct relation between what and when NAFTA was enacted. You know NAFTA, right? The North
Yeah.
American Free Trade, whatever it is. Okay, so when, like, in the city that I lived in, they dumped a few thousand people and they moved to Mexico to do all their. and a lot of that
Mhm.
happened. And then all the call centers, because it was cheaper to go over to India for 5 cents a day, and
Yeah.
such. And um,
Yeah.
so the only real way to turn things around uh, here is to make manufacturing. And we're learning this. If there's a problem with another country, all of a sudden, dependent on them, you can't even get that product from them. Why are you not manufacturing at home instead of abroad? And that is going to be a huge problem between now and forever until we fix that.
You're absolutely right. And that really touches on this element that after I talked with you yesterday, I thought, oh, I should have explained this more, and I didn't really kind of covered a lot of stuff. So one of the things my specific intellectual school of thought does, market anarchists, is we look at what is the what is the change in has happened from capitalism being involved. And there's a main thing, if you've heard of this concept, economies of scale. The idea that one worker can working for an hour can produce something, two workers working 2 hours can produce twice as much. But if you go five, you actually get to like 10 and 20 times the productivity because, it's like a group effort.
Right.
Basically, having larger resources means that you're able to do like bigger batches, and bigger batches means that you can have like a lower per unit price. So capitalism tries to amplify the benefits of economy scale, and what it does to do that is it has these very large locations that are often very far from each other, very far from the final destination. So what that requires is also a very large, intricate transportation structure that we have as roads. Very inefficient, takes a lot of space, and the space that's being occupied by the road is not always being occupied by something traveling on it. And not as efficient as like trains, where you have freight running a fixed B A to B all the time. So capitalism, really big manufacturing places. What happens? The workers drive, just like we were just talking about, all the way to get to the manufacturing place. They produce the goods. There's some benefit because it all happened in one spot. So many people, okay. But then it has and transported across vast distances to all these who are all completely dependent on this manufacturing process for their local economies to have access to diapers, to toilet paper, to eggs, to milk.
So how about
So,
this? When I lived in up Montana, they used to take the wood from Montana, Canada with it to drop it off. In the interim, Canada was bringing this way. I, I don't get that part. I really that is kind of a trippy. Here
yeah.
we're sending our wood to Canada, and they're going to give us their wood. I
So,
I don't know.
yeah, there's another concept. It's just like the one I was talking about, but the opposite, diseconomies of scale. Sometimes you sacrifice the bulk production and the lower per unit cost, but the trade off, you only do small batch production ordered as needed. So you don't have massive storage requirements. You don't have massive transportation requirements. You don't have large labor requirements. And the other thing is, this means a smaller economy or smaller towns or even just more local, you can have your own production. So that, say, instead of everybody buying, what if there was like a Wyoming Amazon and they just covered Wyoming? Weren't named Amazon, they were a different company, but they did
Right.
all the same stuff, all the general goods, and it was based on production from Wyoming. All the transportation was within
That would be
Wyoming.
that. Now that makes, because then you're buying where you
It's
live.
more, yeah,
Absolutely, it's
and you
more
can
efficient.
use less
Plus,
fuel.
I was just about to say a lot would be a lot saved just in that. But well, what about the ag side of that? Do we have enough time for ag? But I guess with the um all the greenhouse, and right here around the corner we see the greenhouse, and they're huge, and so it does make me that you can grow for the state, but they have to be to really feed our people and
So
everything that you would require to feed the people, that lettuce, tomatoes, onions, garlic.
yeah, there's definitely a lot of reprioritizing that has to happen. When we think about that question, where are we going to do all that in the cities? We're going to, okay, so you would need to repurpose a lot of the property, but that's what you have to do that. If you are not willing to do that, then you must not want to
The
eat. But
repurposing, I don't think
but
is the
yeah, that's
repurposing
definitely,
problem, because they get paid too. I think the real thing is how do you grow in this
yeah, there's got to be
in the winter time?
um yeah, to one thing is the farming. The way we think about farming is a very Western way, and that doesn't mean it doesn't have a lot of advantages, but it works in a very specific application, and that obviously does not seem to be working out for us right now. So other option, which is a lot of the history of this land, is indigenous polyculture, means that there are several different crops grown together in proximity because they're known to have a symbiotic relationship with each other. Classic example that people talk about is the Three Sisters system: corn, beans, and squash. And there are different varieties of each of these components for different regional areas that grow together and based on the soil that's known to be there. And so, what we, instead of thinking about, oh, we don't have room to plant a whole field or a whole field of tomatoes, you can actually mix it. And in Oregon, there's examples of this in the forests. There are these like tree gardens, and a lot of people thought that it was natural, but those plants definitely don't naturally. Originally, they were cultivated, and over a long time, um, this very unique. Um, it is man-made. It is like it is interfered with. So we're not saying untouched. We're actually manipulating the hell out of it, using what we
I
know
mean,
works for those
but
plants.
it sounds right. Yeah, it would also need like a per town, maybe a per county, where they grow whatever they can for that, so that they could trade with it of the state, because the east side is better for growing. I don't know. I keep on mentioning the winter because the winter is just it's brutal on plants, But like I said, if every
Mhm.
town had like the UW greenhouses, then maybe that's actually a manageable thing, that can then grow our own crops, and we already have growing cattle. We have plenty of cattle. Yeah. So I mean,
Yeah,
that's
and
not a
there's
problem.
also some cool in there are some cool indoor methods worth mentioning, like if you've heard of aeroponics. I'm looking into buying some land and farming in the future in a couple years. And so I've been studying all these indoor and outdoor, and I'm seeing that there's a lot of vertical farming that utilizes really growing strategies. Um, And so I'm wondering, what are the limits of that? What are the energy requirements? How can you get around some of that? Like how much
Solar.
sunlight without using the heat from the window? So I'll figure all that out in the technical aspects, but I think we have resources that we put towards a lot of things, and so there's really a huge capacity. It's just we never actually as a society talk be more resilient for this, for these issues we're seeing, and we sort of go in the other direction. We keep on, it seems like I don't different small farmers talking about bigger agricultural industry companies kind of taking over, but I've been
Yes,
hearing
they're
that a
buying
little
a
bit as
lot.
I
They've been
research it,
buying a lot. Yes.
and that doesn't help. That doesn't help
No,
independent
the
community.
corporation out of business, really. Right. They just buy them and so that they could be more of a monopoly. They may use that land still, but not like it was. You were mentioning, oh crap, what were we talking about just a second ago?
Before the food, um,
Yeah. Oh,
the
that's
cities
what it was.
or
Well, we have
the
this.
violence.
You have all the vertical growing. The vertical growing. The problem with the is that well, it's not a problem with the vertical. Oh, whenever you grow inside and whatever, it doesn't matter what and then when it's inside, you have to worry about all the bugs, all the aphids, all the everything like that, and termites devastate both both marijuana product and inside tomato growth. They so you have to be able to be deal with those issues as well. And each state will have a issue with those bugs and the warmer
Yeah,
or the cooler times when they're in some kind of greenhouse in the winter.
yeah,
And you're gonna have everybody. That's when you have all the back in because it's warm.
definitely.
And then you want to handle it without using harsh pesticides. You need to use natural stuff. So far, I like the idea of using olive
Yeah,
oil, and stuff like that. But it's definitely to be incorporated into your thought.
definitely. And with climate change, how much we're going to start depending more on indoor growing, especially for regions where farmers may have the knowledge and the experience, but the climate may just be changing too rapidly. And so I wonder, I wonder if that's really a pipe dream and we're not going to see much of that, or if that is how things are going to go. Because I'm really
Well,
not a farmer, so I really don't know what I'm talking about.
but so here, so we do
you know, I,
from the climate change, right? I could
yeah,
one instance is bed bugs. Bed bugs are now over everywhere, and that's because it doesn't stay cold enough long to kill all the different bugs that normally would have died. And so we're
yeah,
having those issues. We're having wells. I think with some bugs you need -20 to kill
wow,
whatever bug that I'm
wow,
thinking of. So it's not, and it has to be -20 solid for all those days. -20 and 50 the next day and back to -20 because it doesn't work.
have you seen The Last of Us, that zombie show?
I seen I played it.
So what that's about is how climate change, the rising temperatures, to not be adapted,
Exactly.
become adapted. humans. And the same thing with bugs is they're getting in these warmer temperatures where they don't die off as much. We're going to see a massive change of what diseases become prevalent among human populations.
Well, you
And
mentioned the disease.
yeah.
Think about this: with the Arctic melting, being there for a billion years, and all the ice that trapped all those different organisms that we didn't even have to deal with now being released, and that
Mhm.
has got to be. Uh, I know they were the science about that not too long ago, but that is another huge issue that we're going to see that we haven't seen in like a billion years. It's been frozen.
Yeah, yeah, the ice melting is definitely an interesting change. And all those viruses and bacteria getting released. Um, and different gases, I'm assuming that are probably like maybe mixed in and
Oh, definitely
yeah, it's
methane should be
definitely
melting off. Definitely melt. Sure. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was a lot of.
yeah, because it's so much. So whatever is in there, it's coming out.
And on top of that, it's melting so much. Now they're finding like pine trees up there, and in Alaska, they're having a problems with beavers now. It has something like 3,000 or 10,000 beavers, and they're making
Wow.
beaver ponds, and that is creating huge melt off of their ground, and so that's all the different releasing all kinds of stuff with the methane as well. And chloroforms are being released now, so the plants
Oh
can't
yeah.
handle it fast enough. So that's affecting the environment as well. And on top of that, Alaska is the number one area to grow vegetables in the States.
Wow.
Yeah, check that out. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, these big, huge swaths of land now to grow.
Yeah.
And then of course, with the climate change, the snow, they always talk that the white was the problem because the white sun. So why aren't all the rooftops white? Don't you think if we had all the rooftops white, the sunlight, the heat, like off the snow with the reflection?
Um, I think the was reflecting more. Um, I know solar problem with reflecting light and heat off of them. So I wonder if that would
Well, they
happen
have a
from the
problem with
roots.
heat. They have if they hit a certain degree, they actually work as well as they're a little cooler, and I forget the temperature, but it's like in the really the solar panel doesn't work nearly as efficient.
But I know over solar fields, and this is like one of the problems that solar has as an impact on the environment is it's several degrees hotter in the air over the solar panels, and so any birds or bugs flying over that, they get often blinded, but they definitely get a lot hotter, so they'll avoid those areas if they can,
I heard
and that means that can change migration patterns if birds are areas because now it's brighter and hotter and it's just like I'm not going to fly over that.
well don't
And
what the
so
water sources are gone too, so now they're having to find a whole new place for you know
yeah, they're
and it
having to
seems like
fly further and they're often not making it.
and I looked into water sourcing, like salination plants and stuff like that, and I know they cause a lot of environment. At the same, they need nuclear power plants right next to them that run consumption. That they need nuclear power just to run the plants on the coast. But they got to figure out something. The water on the inside. Where else is the water going to come from?
There's a couple of things they can change with the water. I mean, the soil erosion is so bad, like the water can't stay in the ground. And then the other thing is, of course, all the things they use water for that like before were made sort of inefficiently. Even the way houses use water, if you look at the way any kind of if you've heard of earth ships, they like recycle times before it's put back out. And so there's just like a lot more efficient versus like we run it and it goes right down the drain the first time. So then it has to get recycled all the way through, and it was used once. And so I think there's definitely some in terms of efficiency. Imagine if we took the remaining amount of we had and then we multiplied our use of it by 7 times. We would need 7 times less. That would be a start, just that alone. But let's see, what is the other things we use for water? Oh yeah. So the amount of
they have those units that take the water out of the air.
I wonder what would be the long-term impact of the air not water on wildlife. Is that what we want, or is that like a short term? With the short term, but we should think about like water in the air does something for plants and like you get nosebleeds if it's too dry. So what is it doing to them?
About how it would affect the animals. I just was thinking that we're just taking the water out of the air.
Yeah, and that's why like is often treat the viable problem, which is often a symptom. Just treat that like with whatever solution most directly treats that, and then when you get these other effects, then we treat that rather than a holistic view of okay, like we need to have food, water, houses, health, transportation. How do we fix all at the same time? That's a harder question, but then you'll actually get like a better answer.
No, absolutely. Yeah, this is gonna be a long solution problem to maybe a short solution, a long problem to a short solution.
I know we use a lot of water in getting oil. Even our energy production is using water. And I prefer, even though historically the US has not been good with what we do with nuclear waste, we typically dump it on native reservations. If we didn't do that, as long as we don't do that, I'm 100% for nuclear energy. It's just the amount of nuclear material that could fit in your hand would power your entire life. So if we were just willing to make the plants, we have enough material. There's just like this political fear because it's a scary thing. Like we don't want to blow up.
3 Mile Island, and stuff like that.
And gasoline is not like a consequence free option either. So it's always opportunity cost. What's the trade off? What are we not doing? What are we doing? Don't do nuclear, what are we doing? And by doing that, what are we not solving? We're not solving any of these problems. But all my leftist friends hate me because I love nukes. So like it's weird being me.
It's it's I think that you have pretty awesome views and very intelligent, and you're a good conversation. But hey, let's up.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
And then again on Tuesday at or if it's
Yeah.
Tuesday at Tuesday, and then we'll kick into something else that will be about.
Yeah, hey, let me point you in a direction of an interesting subject. I don't have much to say about it now, so I just want to bring it to your attention. In 2017, I believe it is, Wyoming passed a law that felons can own black powder and ball firearms. Um, the law was written, it
But that's
mentions that
federally too.
well, it was a state law, but did they make that? I'm pretty
I'm
sure
pretty sure
federally.
that's a federal law.
Um,
Black powder weapons, I thought, because it's a
well,
single
well,
shot weapon, and
a normal citizen can absolutely purchase powder, but a felon in Wyoming is allowed to own that type of gun. But there's a strange caveat. The way the law is written, it says the manufacturer has to be, and as far as I know, none exist. I've
well,
looked. I'm a felon, so this law is interesting, and I'm trying to figure out if it's abidable or not.
well, how about this? Have you heard about getting on a ballot here in Wyoming? From what I understand, is to make anything hit the ballot, just like any enough signatures. But in Wyoming, they make you have enough signatures to make it onto the ballot.
Huh. Oh,
And
I
that's why
haven't
we
heard
don't.
that.
That's why, and that's all the stuff on our ballots. That's why, like they can't get the legalization for medical marijuana or because they have to get signatures from every county before it can even hit to go on a ballot.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that specific law. Read a while ago that they were trying to get that on the ballot, and they got it on like a list, but it was far down the list, and it wasn't going to make a session in time, and so that indicates to me that there is some where like getting a very popular cause represented legislatively is not feasible necessarily. I'll
And
check
think
that
about
out.
all the funds that was funds. I mean, people are driving down the
Have all the college.
Colorado. That's what I'm saying. People are driving down the Colorado and spending all their tax dollars there instead of here.
There, what the alternative is a lot of the stores here, and I've checked because I'm a libertarian, and so the stores here have these lower quality products that are very I don't think they're that healthy, and as smokes daily, I really don't think those products are healthy because I've tried them, and have on you is either very, you're ending up smoking a lot for not the effect you want, or it's debilitating, like a migraine headache a few hours after you've inhaled. They have these different versions of THC that count as legal, but they're only a molecule off, and they hurt your head a lot. So I don't recommend them.
No, they. I hear a lot of awful stuff about kratom, right? Kratom.
Kratom is actually like an older thing that became popular when people started trying to like get off weed or find an alternative. So I feel bad that it gets a lot of hate because it is kind of not that awesome. It's just okay. It's a very light thing. It doesn't taste good. So I don't
I've
enjoy it. I don't look to do it.
awful.
It does. It tastes awful. It's dirt.
So yeah. Oh
It
yeah.
actually tastes like dirt. That's not even an exaggeration. And dirt doesn't taste that bad, but you wouldn't choose to eat it.
No, no. Dirt's not acceptable. Definitely not.
Like
But
there's no
those kind of
cost
issues,
inequality.
there has to be something going. Shop right downtown. It is a block away from the police station.
Yeah, and I'm interested in these Laramie cops because I've had a couple experiences with them, and they definitely are a little different from my typical experience with police. Some of them are the same, but some of them are they really do take it slower. They don't seem like they're ready to slam your head into a steering wheel, and so um, that's kind of like, are they calmer over here a little? I know that years a few years ago, so I don't think they're perfect,
Well,
but I wonder.
I had an interview with Chief, and they have been putting a lot of training, into de-escalation as well, and that is going to go very whenever they meet up with anybody at the window, because they're already ready to help late instead of pull you out and tase you.
That's good. I'm glad they're doing that.
Yeah, they're
To that issue. Yeah. I
no,
got a lot of
do you
questions,
know
but
there's lots of social issues,
yeah,
there's never a shortage of issues, especially in our times. I was looking to get well, I am. I'm getting commitment from a professor in psychology. Come on, and I all the killings that happen today that everyone hears about, even though they don't see it, getting some kind of trauma from that. And I think that needs to be addressed because now people a trauma, but it's also we're getting used to that to that mass shooting today. Oh, okay. I guess we'll have another. No big deal.
yeah, yeah. It's definitely there's of media and the way that people get information and knowledge from media. Some of them are like more direct, some of them is like a kind of an overtime saturation, but I think whatever that you think is more correct, in general there's a sort of, I like to just use the term brainwashing, even though it's not that extreme. It can often be that extreme. They'll keep on phrasing certain events certain ways so many times that when it happens, all they have to say is a certain 3 word. Your brain already makes 100 assumptions about the situation, and that's a very I feel it's an anti-intellectual thing. It's a heuristic, like it's kind of a shortcut to thinking. It doesn't actually lead you to a lot of correct conclusions. um and and on both sides it can be an issue, maybe more on one than the other. It complicates the conversation.
Yeah, well, yeah, it definitely does that. I'm also. I was talking to Denny De- Dedanov. He is he does some podcasts out of Ukraine. He's in Ukraine. He's a pilot, but he's a pilot for like just a civilian airline. But he's gets up with some awesome updates all the time. So I'm constantly listening. Me and him talked, and I come on and be on the pod. So it's cool to get
That sounds good.
all all around the world too. Even whatever uh, propaganda. And I wanted to tell you that in Russia, Channel One, well, they're all propaganda channels, but their Channel One is their main one, and play the same stuff. And after a while, they word it like it
Hmm.
keeps on coming up, and these people believe
shocking, even though it's not even close to the truth.
Yeah, and so one thing that I'll give an example, because and I just thought of it because I actually saw the media like switch directions a little recently. Whenever Israel bombs Gaza, it's always phrased like Israel bombs Gaza in response to rocket strikes. And then you read in the article, and it's like
Right.
the rocket strikes were not seen and were speculated as to having happened. And then you're just like, oh, so maybe Israel's just bombing Gaza. I don't know. Or you see something where it says like, man, guys, in traffic stop, an officer involved shooting. Like, oh wait, did you just not say the cop shot the guy? Is that what happened? Did the cop shoot the guy? And then you read the article and the cop shot the guy. And you're like, oh, you could have said that. It's like,
Did you hear? Okay, so I just read
That they found a 16-year-old girl dead in the woods. And
yeah.
I guess they finally found her. I didn't read.
it was just a headline. 16 found dead
in the and police officer arrested for doing it. We get a lot of problems.
Wow, yeah.
And you see
there's that going on too. It's a never-ending social issue
to be able to reach upon.
Yeah. And there needs to be just like the media can explain different events, even events I've been to, protests I've been to, or actually I was even the one who got arrested once, and the media completely lied in the articles they wrote about me, saying I assaulted an officer, and that was like a made up charge that was dropped. So it's just interesting to see, they'll do what they want, they'll say what they want, and it becomes the truth when they say it. And you could have film, and that's how I actually got out of it. Was there was video the entire thing, and so they couldn't say I hit anybody, but but it was just scary to be like, wow, I'm glad someone had video to go against the cop's word.
Absolutely.
Because then it's the news taking the cop's word, and then it's the news's word on top of the cop's word against you. Who's going to believe you? You're a protester.
Well, fortunately now, pretty fast about that. But the big problem is when some places do have cameras, they just, they get in trouble for that, but not as much as that guy out of them. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's scary. And it's well, there's a lot more we could go into, but I don't want to control the direction of the show more.
Yeah, no, we're let's look forward to Tuesday, and I really you being my guest. And smart.
All right, Gary. Well, it was a pleasure, and I look forward to Tuesday, and yeah, check out that felon gun thing in one.
I am.
It's like a really unique. That's like really pro Second Amendment.
I actually another interview tomorrow with the police. But I'll ask him.
Shoot, yeah. I hope you don't fight him. I hope he's not like, I have no idea. I forgot about that. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't know.
He's a really. It would be okay. I'll have to get back to you on that. But he is. I gotta tell you.
Cool. Well, I'll look forward to watching that one. I think I'll be around to watch it, so that sounds cool.
All right. I'll talk to you soon.